Tonight, for the first time, a senior State Department official speaks out about how the CIA has exacted revenge on him. He says, because he dared to tell the truth about a CIA cover-up of the involvement of its paid informants in torture and murder in Guatemala. Dr. Richard Nuccio is that senior State Department official, a former special advisor to President Clinton on Cuba, and before that, the U.S. government's special envoy in Guatemala. Dr. Nuccio says he blew the whistle, he broke the code of silence because of the involvement of the CIA's paid operatives, its spies in Guatemala, in the brutal murders of an American citizen, the husband of another American, and what he describes as a litany of crimes against humanity.
Including torture and murder.
Torture and murder.
Torture and murder.
According to Rick Nuccio, ever since he revealed what he knew about the CIA's spies in Guatemala, he says he has been the subject of a ruthless effort, at first to prosecute him, and now to force him out of the U.S. government.
I used to work at the White House. I used to be the president's Cuba advisor. I'm back at the State Department spending most of my time trying to answer charges against me.
The CIA's charges are that Dr. Nuccio violated national security when, without authorization, he briefed a congressman on the Intelligence Oversight Committee about the misconduct of the CIA's spies in Guatemala, and that he also confirmed to the press the identity of a secret paid CIA informant. Under U.S. law, it is illegal to reveal the identity of a clandestine agent or informant of the CIA.
I didn't reveal classified information publicly to anyone, and yet I'm being hounded out of government service by the CIA for telling Congress what it had a right to know.
Why do they have this vendetta against Rick Nuccio?
I broke the code. You don't reveal misbehavior by the CIA and survive inside the system.
The misbehavior, the CIA crimes that Rick Nuccio is talking about came to his attention because of Jennifer Harbour, an American citizen who was searching for her missing husband, a Guatemalan guerrilla leader.
He's somewhere here in Guatemala, and I don't plan to leave without him.
2 years ago, we reported on Miss Harbour's hunger strike in Guatemala, where she was trying to force the government of Guatemala to produce her husband or his remains. In that broadcast, we reported that the U.S. government and the CIA knew a lot more than what they were saying publicly about the fate of Jennifer Harbour's husband.
All I've ever seen the embassy do is cover up over and over and over again.
The U.S. State Department official who was in charge of Jennifer Harbour's case at the time was none other than Rick Nuccio. And Nuccio says he repeated to Jennifer what his colleagues at the U.S. Embassy in Guatemala and the CIA had told him.
We don't know anything about this case except what we're told by the Guatemalan government. And the Guatemalan government was saying he committed suicide, he was killed and he's buried. He buried here, he's buried there, dig up that body, dig up this body.
Rick Nuccio says that because of Jennifer's hunger strike and the publicity surrounding it, he ordered a complete review of the U.S. government's files, and to his surprise he found that review turned up this document. A CIA report that Jennifer's husband was captured and kept alive by the Guatemalan army. And then, in this CIA report, it was revealed that a CIA spy was assigned to oversee the interrogation and debriefing of the captured guerrilla.
Inside the State Department, I pressed, what are we going to do with this report? This makes me out to be a liar. It makes the U.S. administration out to be a liar before Congress.
Because you've been saying that...
We don't know anything about this case.
Then Rick Nuccio says his outrage grew as he learned that the CIA had more reports from its informants about the fate of Jennifer's husband.
Saying contradictory things. Saying he's alive, he's dead. He was killed immediately, he was killed after a long time. But the most important thing, that we knew something at all, which is not what we had said before.
But despite his new knowledge, Rick Nuccio says that he could not tell Jennifer Harbour because the information came from what were then still top-secret, classified CIA reports.
I was not authorized to tell her classified information. If something is classified, I can't tell it to you, even if it's about your mother or the dearest person in your life. I go to jail if I tell you what's in that classified report.
Why did the CIA withhold this information from the State Department and from the committees in the Congress? Why would the CIA risk covering up what they knew about the fate of Jennifer Harper's husband? Well, it turns out that in those CIA reports that Rick Nuccio read, there was startling new information. About this man, a Guatemalan Army colonel, Julio Roberto Alpirez, who was being paid by the CIA to provide them with information about Guatemala's 30-year-long civil war with the guerrillas there. And according to those reports, the colonel was not only involved in the interrogation of Jennifer Harper's husband, but in the cover-up of the savage, senseless murder of this man, an American citizen, Michael Devine, who, with his wife, operated a small hotel in rural Guatemala.
A military patrol, Guatemalan Army patrol. For whatever reason, they took him away, and he was found later brutally murdered. And then the Guatemalan Army tried to cover up that murder. And it looks like Alpirez...
The same fellow, working for the CIA.
At that time, on the CIA's payroll, indeed, had helped to cover up that the Army had murdered Devine. That was enough to convince me that this perhaps was why the agency had kept this information so buried within the U.S. government.
Dr. Nuccio says he tried to get his colleagues in the State Department and the National Security Council to act on what he had learned, but he was told to do nothing that would antagonize the CIA.
Informally, I was told, please don't do this kind of thing.
Because?
They're going to cut us off at the CIA. They're not going to... If they find out you're over here criticizing the CIA, they're going to stop giving us information. Don't do this. Don't criticize the CIA.
So you were...
It's
not just in your head, it was in your heart that you had lied to Jennifer, that you had information, and you had not been forthcoming.
I turned gray between October and early February. I slept very rarely a full night. I had lied to people that had known me and trusted me for years. I had to live day after day, night after night, without being able to go back to those people and say, what I told you was wrong. It was tormenting me. But the laws that I lived under, the oaths that I had signed, prevented me from telling anyone about this.
Distraught and guilt-ridden, after 6 months of silence, Rick Nuccio decided to go to someone he felt the law allowed him to talk to, someone with a security clearance, a member of the House Intelligence Oversight Committee, Congressman Robert Torricelli. What was Congressman Torricelli's reaction when you told him this?
He was really furious. He said to me what he said publicly, that this was a rogue CIA, that this was a violation of U.S. law, that I was concealing a crime against an American citizen. And
outraged by what he called a CIA cover-up, Congressman Torricelli sent this letter to the White House and to the New York Times, identifying the CIA spy, Colonel Alpirez. Then Torricelli went public, accusing the CIA of covering up both murders.
I do not believe that any member of Congress or anyone in this government has a responsibility to protect the identity of a foreign intelligence source, even in contract with the United States government, if they murder an American citizen. I believe it is an obstruction of justice and a crime to do so.
Torricelli's actions set off an internal investigation by the CIA, after which the CIA director fired 2 senior CIA officials and disciplined 8 more. But the story doesn't end there. A Justice Department investigation found no basis for prosecuting any of those CIA agents, but the prosecutor did go after Rick Nuccio. Why? For allegedly violating the Agent Identification Act by revealing the name of a top-secret CIA agent, Colonel Alpirez, to Congressman Torricelli, and for allegedly confirming that information anonymously to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Remember, under U.S. law, it is a crime, a violation of national security, publicly to identify a CIA spy.
And you say national security, this person violated U.S. national security, and you can do almost anything to them. They threw every piece of dirt they could at me, and I've managed to clean myself of every one once I finally got a chance to see what the dirt was.
You did not leak anything to the New York Times, the Washington Post?
Never any classified information about this case. Never any documents, nothing that I have been accused of.
What's the status of the prosecution against you now by the Justice Department?
The charges were dropped.
But the CIA, he says, was not satisfied. He says that based on those same charges, they denied him the special top-secret security clearance that is required for him to do his job.
Removing this clearance from me means I will never work in the executive branch or in Congress again, not in this government or any future government.
Forced to defend himself, Rick Nuccio says he tried to find out who it was who talked to the press about the CIA's secret operative.
I probed and queried and reasoned who it might be in the administration who would be getting a phone call from the New York Times or the Washington Post about an intelligence matter. And there were very, very few people in the U.S. government. It led me to the person who was then the Senior Director for Intelligence on the National Security Council.
Who is?
George Tenet.
And today, George Tenet is the Deputy Director of the CIA, the #2 man at the agency. Rick Nuccio says, and sources in the Justice Department confirm, that when investigators reviewed Nuccio's phone records, they found no evidence to support the allegation that he talked with any of the reporters involved.
What my phone records show, and what happens to be true, is I never talked to the New York Times reporter responsible for this before in my life. I'd asked them to review George Tenet's phone records when he was on the National Security Council and see who he talked to.
It would be ironic if Rick Nuccio were right about George Tenet, who signed this letter to the State Department informing them that the CIA would not grant Rick Nuccio his special security clearance.
George Tenet is the person who has decided that my conduct is a violation of security procedures and that my clearances that only the CIA administers should be removed.
What you're saying is that Tenet is going after you to cover his backside.
I don't know whether he's covering his backside, but what he's doing is sitting in judgment on me about an issue of which I believe he is in fact guilty.
Deputy Director George Tenet declined our invitation for an interview, but denied that he confirmed the identity of the CIA's spy to the press. As for Nuccio, he has presented his claim concerning George Tenet to a special CIA panel. In effect, Dr. Nuccio, you're saying that the CIA gets you if you blow the whistle, even when they cover up murders? And no one in the White House has seen fit to say, hold it, fellas. This man is an honorable man doing his job.
No one until now. It's been a very lonely 7 months.
Rick Nuccio says he does have supporters inside the State Department.
There were some individuals at the State Department who helped a lot behind the scenes. And
you don't want to name them because that'll just dirty their names.
Unfortunately, being a friend of Rick Nuccio is not healthy for you. Doing the right thing for Rick Nuccio is not good for your career.
What do you hope will be the reaction to our talking?
Well, I don't want to leave government service, certainly not under the gun of a CIA blackmail threat.
2 weeks ago, armed with statements of support from a Republican congressman, as well as from Democrats in the House and Senate, and from a four-star Marine general, Rick Nuccio went to CIA headquarters to make his case for reinstating his security clearance. No one at the CIA would talk with us on camera, but the Director of Central Intelligence, John Deutsch, did send us a statement. He writes in part, the CIA only began its actions related to Rick Nuccio's security clearance at the request of the chairman of the House Intelligence Oversight Committee. He goes on, I've done everything I can to ensure that Mr. Nuccio is given a thorough and fair hearing. The result of that hearing by a special appeals panel of 3 attorneys is expected shortly.